Let me tell you, Americans, about some European politics. We're going to be talking about a very lovely lady that I like from history by the name of Margaret Thatcher. And in order to understand why she is so important, you need to also understand the culture and the economy surrounding the United Kingdom at the time. Now, I'm going to drastically oversimplify the events that led to her election because I do not have time to go through them in a 10-minute video. But suffice to understand that after World War II, the UK wasn't as well off as the United States. You had massive poverty, you have unemployment, and the working class wasn't doing very well economically. And because of this, communists managed to take advantage of the situation. And actual Marxism and communism as an ideology was flourishing throughout various unions. And politicians were promising socialism if they were to get elected. So this is where Margaret Thatcher comes in. She was the leader of the Conservative Party and manages to become the Prime Minister of Britain. And due to her policies, which not all of them were quite good, some of them were bad, but overall, she managed to turn the economy around, and for the first time in many years, the working class could now afford to buy property. They could afford to buy a home, they could afford to buy a car. The middle class wasn't that worse off either. And because of this, the conservatives became incredibly popular. Now, of course, you can understand that the Marxists were absolutely livid. The revolutionary spirit was robbed, they would say. And they realized that the same old message isn't going to be working anymore. You can't go to a working class lad that just bought an apartment because he's well off and you need to explain to him that no, this is not okay. You need to believe in Marxism as the future. They realized that their voting base pretty much is completely destroyed. And one of the persons that managed to turn this around was Tony Blair. The way he figured is like, well, we can't go back to our voting base, but what we can do is we can try to adopt the American model. Instead of a class struggle, we can now talk about a cultural struggle. Instead of the working class, we're now going to focus on racial minorities, on sexual minorities, on gender identity, and hopefully, with a lot of immigration coming in, once they get citizenship, or at least their children get citizenship, they're going to vote for us. So in the beginning, the plan was to appeal to the white middle-class population and sell them a story. The story is like, look how oppressed people are. I mean, sure, economically everyone is doing fine, but look at the racial minorities. Look how oppressed they are by other people. Why don't you vote for us so we can be the champions of minorities? And that's how the left managed to regain some of the power they lost after Margaret Thatcher. Now, I am noticing in the United States something very similar, which is happening with the Orange Man. Now, the Orange Man, whatever, bad policies you think he did or whatnot, it is undeniable that the number of jobs for the black community has risen. In fact, it managed to reach a historically all-time high under his administration. And I remember when he announced this, everyone in the room was clapping, but the quote-unquote black Democrats were absolutely livid. They were looking at it very crossed and very angry because they knew that this means they can lose their seats if this continues. So this is why when Joe Biden makes a joke, which lands very poorly, it is absolutely devastating for the Democratic Party, and it's absolutely devastating for the left-leaning culture that the Democrats are definitely trying to benefit from. You see, Joe Biden had a discussion with a member of the black community, a rapper, an influential person. And the joke was that he tried to present himself as God's gift, like the anointed person from Jesus Christ for the black community in the United States. And the joke was that he can't even conceive a black person not voting for him. So it's a very divisive rhetoric, and you can see this when the Democrats are viewing America. It's It's not Americans. No, it's like black Americans. And a good black American votes for the Democrat. This is like something that I find it always funny with the culture in the United States. Like, the left constantly complains about putting people in boxes. Like, you shouldn't stereotype people, you shouldn't put them in a box. But apparently, if you're black, you can only vote Democrat. And it's not only with Joe Biden. You get to notice when Kanye West was supporting the Donald, and you see these people getting attacked on Twitter. If you are on Twitter, you will see them constantly being attacked, and it's funny because it's not black people that attacks them mostly. It's actually white people that are attacking them, and they're telling them like, no, you don't understand your interests. Let me as a white person tell you how you should think as a black person. It's like the most bizarre thing. It's comedical in nature, and of course, you know, the press won't report it, but if you are on Twitter, you get to notice this time and time again. So it's also interesting how the left treats minorities the same way communists used to treat the workers. Very infantilizing in a way, almost as if they're children that require protection. And every time a child does something wrong, well, it's not really his fault because we can't expect them to behave like an adult. It's really disgusting, really. But anyway, right, so you have like this thing which is starting to appear on the internet, this saying, the Democratic plantation. It's the idea that you are in a box as a black person, and you have no choice in who you vote. You need to vote Democrat. Why? Because they have your best interests, allegedly. But there are a lot of people that I noticed from communities that have voted for Democrats time and time again, and the community just goes from bad to worse. So at this point, they can be like, well, let's try the alternative. But they get pushback. They get shunned if they even suggest, because, oh, don't you know, Trump is a racist. He's such a racist that he keeps creating jobs for the black community, which seems to like going to work, believe it or not. But anyway, so this is why Biden's joke is really damaging to the Democrats, because it takes away from their core voting base. They need the black community to vote Democrat and constantly support the Democrats so that they can sell that story to the guilt-ridden white middle class. Plus, the percentages also help, but it's not necessarily as in the percentages, but as the story that needs to be sold. They are the saviors. They are the champions of black people, which is really funny because if you actually look at the diversity within the Democratic Party, you will be shocked. It's really something that everyone should do. Just Google and try to figure out the diversity within the Democratic Party, because they're very smart. You know, they will push forward for the cameras, people like Ilhan Omar, other people like O'Rourke, yeah. But if you if you look at them, they're really upset that, oh, allegedly this article came out. Google is lowering their diversity initiatives. Oh, blah, blah, blah. But then when you look at the Democratic Party, they're white as ghosts, with very few exceptions. It's really hilarious when you look at it. So anyway, the Democrats today tweeted, it didn't have to be this bad. And a symbol of a corrupt party, this is something that you notice in Eastern Europe. When an entire party, an entire political movement cannot produce a proper candidate, that is a symptom that the party is corrupt to the core. And when I say proper candidate, I'm talking about the fact that, of course, no one is perfect. Every candidate is going to have scandals and is going to be revealed that 20 or 30 years ago he did something or something else. That's fine. But when you have a candidate that most of the time doesn't know where he is, when he is in a state and mistakes the name of that state, or when it's clear in interviews that he is not able to perform for a debate, when they keep him hidden, like hoping he doesn't talk, because the moment he opens his mouth, he says a gaffe, that is very concerning. It's like, okay, so from the entire party, you couldn't produce someone else. And the answer is they could produce other people, like Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders was someone that I actually hoped he would go against Trump, because America is in desperate need of a debate between a capitalist and a person that made something out of himself, like Donald Trump, and a person like Bernie Sanders, which used to talk about millionaires and billionaires until it turns out that he's a millionaire, and then like, boop, it's only billionaires now. So it would have been very interesting to see a conversation, and socialism actually needed their hero. They needed their champion in order to go fight against the Orange Man, and the American people would have decided. So I was a little bit upset when I saw they didn't go for him. They could have gotten with so many candidates, even Buttigieg and others. They were people that at least could have been in a debate and have a conversation. No, they went with Joe Biden. And at this point, I'm more interested in who the vice president for Joe Biden is going to be, the running mate, right? Because that's the person that's like one heart attack away, well, from becoming the actual president. That's the interesting thing. And it's not just me saying it, like The Atlantic. The Atlantic wrote an article saying, Joe Biden, all you have to do is to stay alive. Like, they don't even care about the man's policies. They don't even care about his ideas or anything. He's like just like some corporeal manifestation that they're using in order to try to push into the White House so that they can gain, the power of the presidential institution. It's bizarre. It is. And again, like, I don't know why the Democrats tweeted it didn't have to be this bad, but they did. And it's absolutely hilarious. Like, they are getting roasted both by people from the left and the right. Like, you get people with the rose. You know, the rose is a symbol for socialism. And say, you wanted to win with Republicans, now go get their votes. I don't think, like, the Republicans really like Joe Biden, to be honest. Then you get, like, pictures with Obama. No, we can't. Like, again, these are socialists that are roasting them. And look at this. Will the Democrat establishment destroy the party to stop Sanders? Yes, like there's a lot of people on the left that are saying they're either not going to vote or they're going to vote for Trump in order to teach the Democrats a lesson. So, you know, after this gaffe, you not only lose probably, I don't know how much of the black community they're going to lose. It's not really about the vote at this point. It's more the cultural damage that you managed to create. Because you're basically saying, yeah, our mentality, like the Democrats, you know, like Joe Biden, the wealthy Democrats, our mentality is that the black people will always vote for us no matter what we do. And if you think like that, then why would you even care about the people who vote for you? You're literally saying you're taking them for granted, basically. And then you have another party, the Republicans, that are actually trying to get their votes. They're actually trying to engage. And it's like, okay, what do you guys want? Jobs. All right, we're going to give you jobs. Vote for us. Meanwhile, the Democrats are like, well, you're going to vote for us anyway. Man, you know what's also interesting? And this is only in America. I noticed this. It's so funny. And if you're an American, tell me, like, is this during the latest years or is this something that has been going on for a while? When a Republican is wealthy, when he makes money, he flaunts his wealth. He basically points out, yes, I'm very rich, I'm very wealthy, I'm successful, blah, 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 blah. He uses that success and the wealth almost like a resume. You know, vote for me, look how successful I am. When the left gets wealthy, they hide their wealth. They don't like to talk about it. Bernie Sanders is a perfect example. And I noticed this because when the Joker movie came out, a lot of people thought, oh, Thomas Wayne, he is a right-winger. He's like Trump. He's the example of Trump. And it's like, nowhere in the movie do they talk about his politics at all. Yeah, sure, he could be right-winger, but he could also be a Democrat. Like, it's never implied. It's never suggested. And everyone was like, oh yeah, he is right-wing. Like, why? Like, so many business Democrats exist, and they're real. Especially like corporations, you know, they do have political ambitions. Some corporate leaders, they're Democrats. But again, like, you wouldn't know this because they hide their wealth and they don't like to talk about it. But anyway, right, let me know what you think, and I'll see you guys in the comment section.